welcome to another episode of Break Away from the Rat Race. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Isabelle Garino. Isabelle is a former flight attendant, Walt Disney World intern, and now the COO. There's a big gap here, COO of Residential Assisted Living Academy. She's been featured in many magazines and articles on the topic of senior housing, and most recently was given the title as one of the top influencers in senior housing. Isabelle also won Aging Media's The Future Leaders of Assisted Living Award in 2020, being two of 100 under 30 to make that list. Isabelle also is going to have a free ebook that she's going to offer at the end of the day, so make sure you stay all the way to the end. Isabelle, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So as I was mentioning in the intro, it's kind of like a big gap. You went from Walt Disney World intern to COO. So what's the path there? How did you manage that jump?
Yes, I definitely had to work my way up. But what happened was actually I, was a flight attendant as well in between there, right? They're all kind of smorgasbord in there. But my dad was a real estate investor for 40 years, and my grandmother broke her hip and needed assisted living. And so, we kind of made that jump because when we were looking around for something suitable for her, we were disgusted by the options. We're like, We're not putting her in anything, no way. So then we stumbled into residential assisted living, and him being the investor he's like, okay, wait, I'm going to be paying $5,000 a month for my mom to live here, or I could own the real estate and the business and be cash flowing $10,000 a month, and she could live for free. So he purchased his first one. And once I saw what he was doing, I was like, hey, tell me more. What's going on? I noticed he was happier, lighter, making more money. And he'd been in real estate a long time, but something was different. And so I kind of just worked my way into being like, how can I help you? How can I do this? And started as his assistant. And over the course of the next 8 years, we built like 7 different companies. We took the team from the 2 of us to over 50 employees. And my dad passed last October. So now it is 100% all on me, and I'm loving every second of it, but it's definitely been a journey to get here today.
Yeah, so that sounds great. I mean, I like that because solving problems and is like realizing, okay, well, this doesn't make sense. This is like, why is it so expensive and all that? But you obviously need something. Like, not everybody can go and say, oh yeah, well, I could just buy the house and the business and then be cash flowing. So what are some of the skills you think you need in order to kind of get in that business of providing the service, if this is something that you're interested in?
Yeah, great question. So that is one of the 4 ways to get started, right? Purchasing the real estate and the business, because what we do and what we teach and train real estate investors to do is not the day-to-day. We're not teaching you to work in the home or anything like that. You're going to hire that staff who's going to do all of that for you. You're sitting in the owner's box. So truly owning the real estate and the business, right? So if you're purchasing an existing, mostly the staff already exists. The residents are already there. So that is one of the fastest and easiest ways to get involved. But the other ways is buying a single family home and converting it to become an RAL. So that's really knowing all the licensing and zoning in the area, getting those, permits and everything that you need through the state, and then fully creating and marketing that business so that you can attract the staff, attract the residents, and you're truly building something from the ground up. 3 is building a custom home from the ground up, right? So some people still live in areas where land is still readily available, and you can do that. And if that's, if you're in Texas or Kansas City, it's like, that's great. You can definitely do a custom home from the ground up. And 4th is leasing a home to do this. So many of your listeners, they really might want to be more passive. So they could purchase a home, renovate it, get it licensed, and then lease it to an operator who's going to run the business. And that way they're just passively cash flowing on the real estate. So there's kind of 4 different ways you could get involved.
I think we're going to start with number 4 and then kind of like work our way to the most difficult one where you actually own the whole thing. So how do I, and I've looked at that in the past too. I said like, well, how do I I have a residential home. I have many in my portfolio. I want to make that into a residential assisted living.
Mhm.
What do I do? Like, how do I find that person or that business that's going to operate, that's going to have the staff that they need? They know all the regulations. They're going to tell me how to renovate the house so that it meets their standards. So how do I do that?
For the most part, if you're going to just be on the real estate side, you're making the home and you're creating the home kind of how you want or need it to be. The state will give you minimum requirements, and they're minimum, to say the least. I mean, they'll say like 80 to 100 square feet per person. That's insane. That is
Mhm.
way too small. So
Mhm.
we tell our students 300 to 500 square feet per person is a lot more comfortable. Most seniors are going to want private bedrooms and private bathrooms. So you're in Florida, right?
Yep.
I believe you're allowed to have 12 residents in a home in most counties in Florida. So this is not a 3 bedroom, 2 bath. This is a large home in a nice part of town. I would definitely, our students in Florida have anywhere from 10 to 12 bedrooms in the home. So these are big properties,
Yeah.
typically single level. If it is multi-level, that's okay. You just have to add a chairlift or an elevator. So different things like that. Like, you're going to want to make sure the rules for renovation, you're going to match what the state says, but we're always going to encourage you to exceed it.
Yeah.
Make sure it's nice and luxurious, and then as many, privates as you can. Getting it licensed through the state is really a matter of paperwork, and then getting like the fire marshal to come over to say, approve, or fix this, fix that. So that now you have a home and it's ready to go. Obviously, the sooner you can find an operator, the better, because if they are with you through that journey to tell you, I love XYZ, you might be willing to do that, right?
Mhm.
So you can either find them throughout the process and work with them on it, or
Yeah.
find them after and say, here's what I've got.
Yeah.
I'm renting it out to you, take it or leave it. Because a lot of people who do want to get into this business, they don't have the money piece, they don't have that component, but they have the heart. So they're willing to lease from you for sometimes twice the fair market rent,
Mhm. Yeah.
because you've done that hard work, that labor to get it up and running.
Yeah. So where should I buy the house? So I would prefer actually to work with with someone, the operator already, and kind of know what they want, what they're looking for, and all of that,
Yeah.
and then get their specs, and then I can then buy a home. So maybe I don't have a house in the portfolio that's in the right neighborhood, or and so I would need to get kind of these criteria. So what are the typical, so you mentioned like single level. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think, and also kind of like, what's the break even point? You mentioned like the 12 residents, or
Yeah.
as many residents as you can, 300 square foot or 500 square foot per resident.
Yeah.
But what kind of other neighborhoods do you need, or characteristics of the neighborhood do you need to make it a successful assisted living?
So for sure, you're going to be looking for demographics. That's going to
Mhm.
be your key determining factor, whether the home is going to work there or not. When I say demographics, we're not looking for the 85-year-old who's living in the home. We're looking for what we call daughter duty. So that's the adult child who's paying for mom or dad to live in the home.
Uh,
She wants mom or dad 5 to 10 minutes down the road from her. Like, she does not want to drive 40 minutes down the road. She
Yeah.
wants it close, and she wants it at her scale. So
Yeah.
an upper middle class, 50 to 70-year-old who's a homeowner. When you do a quick demographic search, you'll be able to kind of find the pockets where that is the heavy population. And then that's where you want the home.
And then you
Because
write a circle around
write a
it.
circle. Exactly. That's exactly where you want the home, because they're going to, if they're upper middle class, if they're a homeowner, those are things that are going to indicate to you that they're probably doing better.
Mhm.
So if the national average for assisted living is $4,500 a month, when someone is making below minimum, below average income, they're going to be, wow, 4,500, how am I going to afford that? They're going to be looking for government pay options or cheaper options. So we don't want the home in an area with them. When someone's making more money, then they're like, I need to give my mom the best.
Yeah.
4,500. No. I want to pay 6. I want to pay 7, because they understand money equals sometimes quality care.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm willing to pay more for that, so you want to make sure you're near them. Demographics is like key. And then yes, what you're saying about the physical property, single levels preferred. You can do multi, but it's easier that way. I would also say try to avoid HOA neighborhoods. They can't tell you no because of the Federal Fair Housing Act, which is a federal law that trumps any city, state, angry neighbor, or HOA, right? Because it's discriminatory against disabled persons. And if you need assisted living, you are disabled at that point, right? Like you need help getting up, walking, bathing, all those things. But it doesn't mean the HOA is not going to try to fight you to the nail. So avoid if possible. Do the neighborhood right next door that doesn't have an HOA. If you're forced, some cities are like that, where like everyone has one no matter what. You got to do what you got to do, and you just have to be prepared for that.
Okay. And then, so how do I find the operator like that is willing to work with me on that?
So it's not like, unfortunately, it's not like there's like a database of people that you can like, wow, let's partner up. But I always do encourage people that in our trainings, and especially in our national conventions that we host, both of those places, our national convention has like 800 attendees, and our training has like 150 attendees every 8 weeks. Coming to those, meeting with people in the class, or maybe even just looking in your own network to see, hey, would somebody be interested in this? When you talk to especially nurses these days, you don't have to be in the medical field to do this, to be an operator, right? Because they're just owning a business. You could be anybody. But nurses have been so overworked over the last couple of years. Most of them, thank you so much for all their service, but most of them are miserable right now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And if you gave them an opportunity and showed them, maybe you have a nurse or a doctor friend in your life who's just like, I'm sick of insurance, I'm sick of the hospitals, this is crazy, but I'm in it because most of them have the biggest hearts in the world, and they got in for their heart. They're like, I want to care for people, I want to make a difference, I want to make an impact. This is an opportunity to make a mega impact with cash flow, and actually be able to, I love the name of your podcast, be able to get out of the rat race, live that dream of being more passive and hands off. Even that operator, they don't have to be in the home all the time. That's so right, it's a good opportunity for them too. So maybe there's someone in your network. If not, I would encourage, anybody to come to the class and just network and see who might be there, who might be a good match for them.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, and it sounds like you can be in there like at different levels. So I could just be there like and provide the house to a business, and they just lease the property, and that's the end of our relationship. I could be partnering up at a different level and kind of like own the business and the real estate, and then say, okay, well, I'm just the manager, the administrator of the business. And I have staff that take care of the people. I don't need to be there. I just do the admin work basically.
Correct.
And but if I want to be more involved even with the clients and the that are there, I mean, I can also do that. I can be more hands-on if this is something that I want to do. So different levels of involvement depending on what you really want to do and what really interests you. But I know that some people would find it extremely rewarding to be helping older people and spending time with them and talking to them and helping them out. So whatever floats your boat is
exactly. I always say that people are like, can this be passive? And I'm like, yeah, it could be as passive as you want or as active as you want. If you want, we have a student in New Jersey, and he has a gorgeous home. It is got 15 residents. It's a 4-story home. It's stunning. And he was a real estate investor before this. That one home is cash flowing him 40 grand a month.
Wow.
He quit everything he was doing. He's older. He's like maybe close to 70. He quit everything he was doing. And now he literally just goes over once or twice a week and like grills for the residents.
Oh my God. That's very nice.
He's like, this is great. Like, I want to go visit, and I want to cook, and his kids are out of the house. So he's like, I want someone to enjoy my cooking. And like, he's like sending me pictures in flip-flops, grilling, like living the dream. I'm like, good for you, man. Like you can be as much or as little as you want. It's all how you set it up. It's you creating your own business or just getting involved on the real estate side.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm thinking also about, I have my parents that are, my father that's aging, and I have my mother-in-law that's aging as well. And so we're kind of thinking about, okay, well, I would like them closer. I would like all of that. And then, so either I buy a bigger house or I kind of do something on the side. They're not, so this is very interesting. So we talked about, okay, I just do the real estate. I partner up with someone. But obviously the piece of, I want to get involved and I want to start my own business. To me, obviously there are different levels. I think it was pretty complicated. There's a nursing home, assisted living. There's all kinds of different levels. So can you explain kind of like the different levels of assistance that is provided, and kind of like the requirement at a high level?
Yeah. So obviously most of us think of assisted living, we think of a big box facility, a Brookdale, a Sunrise, an Atria, right? Like those big commercial hospital looking buildings. So that's not what this is, because it's residential assisted living. In residential assisted living, you can pretty much get licensed for two types of care: assisted living or memory care. So both of those two, it's not independent living, which is Golden Girls style, right? Where they just need minor help and they're paying you for the house plus a little landscaping or something here or there. And it's not nursing home, which is doctors, gurneys, IVs, like they need medical attention. So it's neither of those. It's right in the middle, assisted living. Most people move into assisted living because they need help with 3 to 5 activities of daily living, which is truly anything that you do from the moment you get up out of bed till you go to bed, including bathing, toileting, eating, brushing your hair and teeth, taking medication, getting up, walking around. They need help with 3 to 5 of those, typically by the time they move in. Memory care is a higher level of license. And in our training, we do go through memory care as well, because we always say, like, if you're going to deal with it, you might as well get paid for it. Everyone has something going. Hello, I forgot where my keys were yesterday. We all have some form of memory care issue going on. It's going to possibly progress more for some seniors as they get older. So the memory care license is a little bit higher. The requirements on the home are a little different, meaning different locks. Like different situations, like they have to have like a door that blocks the kitchen, like different things like that you don't have to have in assisted living. But in memory care, it is about an additional $500 to $1,500 more per resident per month, because the licensing level is higher, the caregivers level is higher, they're paid more, so you can make more doing those types of homes. And I will say this, typically, and not always, but typically, memory care residents are physically more with it than in assisted living. In assisted living, they're physically not there, but mentally you might be having the best conversation about, their past life and whatever. And it's just very different, because the, ambulance is called less. There's way less trip hazard and fall, because usually physically they're fine. It's just mentally they're not there with them. It does, if you can tell when you walk into a memory care home versus an assisted living home, there's just a physical difference usually between the residents.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. So, all right. So then obviously there's a process. I filed for the licensing for assisted living or memory care. So what are the requirements there for me? Like, I don't have any medical background or anything like that. And so what's the requirement there?
So through the state, every state has basically your application for licensing. It's not necessarily about you, because the physical home is what you're licensing. So they're coming over to check that it's senior safe. It doesn't have to be ADA compliant, but you're going to want as close to ADA compliant as possible, right? Just for your protection and safety and the seniors' protection and safety. Like, if they're not going to say you have to have ramps and guardrails and this and that, but I'm going to tell you, go do that, because why would you set yourself up for something bad to happen? So the physical home, they're going to come over and basically check it, right? The fire marshal will come in when you have a certain amount of residents in certain states. They'll say you need fire suppression, so sprinklers or something like that, which is fine. To me, again, it's like the elevator. It's a one-time fee. You put it
Yeah.
in, you make it happen. If you have to
Yeah.
have it, you have to have it.
Yeah.
So the ramps, guardrails, fire suppression, senior safety everywhere, like smooth floors. I don't want carpeted floors or a bunch of changing levels.
Yeah.
You know, the less stairs. Even like my personal home has a bunch of areas where there's like just 3 stairs. You know, it's not like a full flight, but
Yeah.
this would be a terrible home for seniors. You know,
Yeah.
constantly having to help them up and down. Private bedrooms and bathrooms are better. They will be doing like square footage in the bedrooms. Like I was saying, that 80 to 100 square feet. There's a requirement on bathrooms. Typically it's 2 bathrooms within the whole home. Oh, again,
That's
I'm
it?
like,
Wow.
exactly.
Wow.
Like they don't care. It's so
Yeah.
bad. So most seniors want their own private bathroom, and the daughter
Yeah.
Jude wants that too, because she's
Yeah.
like, mom needs to, toilet.
Yeah. Exactly.
It has to be hers.
Yeah.
So the more you can have, the better. But also, everyone who's living in the home, they're paying different rates. It's like a Las Vegas hotel. You're staying in the penthouse versus the 2 queen beds on the first floor. You're getting different experience. You're getting different amenities. So the person who's in the master with their own massive bathroom might be paying a certain amount versus someone who's in a shared room or has a shared bathroom, right? They're all living in the same home, but different rates coming in.
Okay, that's good. So, all right, then after that, I need staff. Like I need people to run this thing. At the beginning, I guess I don't want to be involved. I just want to be very passive. And so how do I find the staff? How do I hire? And who's the first person that I hire?
Oh, I love that. Definitely your licensed administrator is going to be your first hire. I kind of will simultaneously call them your manager, because in real estate world, they're kind of like your project manager, right?
Yeah, okay.
They oversee basically everything from the hiring and firing, the marketing and touring the property. So when families come, like they're the ones giving the tour. Any other independent contractors, they're the ones saying when they're coming, when they're going, whether that's a landscaper, a chef, an activities person, right? They really run everything.
Okay.
So they kind of are your main key player. And that's the first person I would always hire. Even sometimes I don't mind hiring them before the work is done.
Yeah, to me, it sounds like this is kind of like what I would want to do. I would want to hire that person, that licensed administrator, to say, okay, well, you're going to be the licensed administrator. Find the house, tell the contract, work with this contractor, figure out the specs, do the paperwork and all that. Is that possible?
They're not more than likely, they're not going to be experienced on the real estate side. They're experienced on the medical side.
Oh, okay.
So they know what to look for in the caregivers and managers. They know when the family comes in to talk with them about that's why I say they're kind of the project manager, because they're overseeing the property and the home, but they more than likely aren't going to have real estate experience. It's more of, and so you can find them. I know you're asking how you find them, literally on job websites, Indeed, anything like that.
So licensed assisted living administrator.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And they're licensed through the state. I always like to find someone who has some experience. Most administrators can oversee anywhere from 2 to 4 homes. So one home isn't full time for them. So my gal right now, she oversees all 3 of our properties. I have 1 phone call with her a week, and I visit the home every other month. So I've built it very hands-off, where it's like, if you need me, but I trust you, you're the licensed one, you know what you're doing, and she's incredible. So I'm really blessed in that regard. Of course, in the beginning, it was more work to make sure we were a good fit and we have the same alignment. And then now that I trust her, it's like, as hands-off as I can be, I want to be, but they really are kind of that main key staff member for you. Your caregivers are next. That's who is doing the direct care for the residents. Again, you can find them on job websites anywhere. You can also find caregivers who are working in big box facilities right now and are super overworked and underpaid. And if you're willing to pay them $2 more an hour. And over there, they have a 15-to-1, caregiver to resident ratio.
Wow.
They will be thrilled to come to your home where it's 4-to-1 or max 5-to-1, right?
Yeah.
They're going to be like, you're paying me more. I'm hanging out in a luxury home all day long.
Yeah.
And I only have to care for 5 people at a time. Oh, I'm coming. So finding people who are not that I'm encouraging us to steal, employees from anyone, but there's a lot of people.
But we are.
But we are. But if they're unhappy, I mean, you're providing a better option. So
yeah, absolutely.
I always say that it's kind of like a 3-legged stool. The business is important. The money is important. The residents are important. You've got to have them or it doesn't work. But the staff is equally as important. All 3 of those things, you need them all to be working happy together, because if they're not, it's a 3-legged stool. Kick one out, if topples over, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be that perfect trifecta of everybody working in alignment and everybody being happy.
Yeah. Well, that's getting me, thinking about kind of like what I want to do with that. But so this is great information. So I really like that. So what's the state? I already probably think I probably have a good idea what the answer is going to be. What's the state of that of the market for nursing assisted living homes?
So on one hand, I want to address 2 things, right? So don't let me forget COVID. Okay.
Yeah.
On one hand, because the right now the silent generation lives in assisted living. It's not the baby boomers yet, right?
Oh,
baby
wow.
boomers are 20 years out from needing assisted living.
That's
it's
right.
Their parents who are in it.
Wow.
There's only 47 million in the silent generation. There's 76 million baby boomers.
Wow.
And we are currently 1.3 million beds short. So we're about to double the amount of need and we're already short. It's going to be a massive crisis, right? We call it the silver tsunami. Like they're coming and they're going to need help. And the options that are available are not good. Like we have to do something to do better, to be better for these seniors. So to me, massive need in every single state. I know you're in Florida, I'm in Arizona, where people say, oh, but you have seniors, like, oh, come on, all the old people live there, right? Hello, if you grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, your whole life, do you think you're going to magically move to Florida when you turn 90? No, you're going to stay where you're from, where you've been, what you know. So people age everywhere. You move to Florida or Arizona when you're 65. You don't move when you're 85,
That's right. Yeah.
So also considering it's about daughter Judy,
that's what I was about to say. See, I learned my lesson. I said, where's the daughter?
Where is the daughter? So she's the one who's going to say, no, I want mom or dad here. You know what I mean?
That's
when the senior might move to be near the daughter. On the other hand, COVID, I want to address this because during COVID, there was such a bad rep for senior housing, and people were like, it was just bad. It got very bad in big box facilities because of the coming and going of caregivers and staff within those homes.
And the density, right?
The density there's so many people, and once it's in there, it spreads quick and it's hard to stop. When you have a home that has upwards of 16 is the max you're allowed to have in most states, 6 to 16 seniors in a home, and it's the same caregivers coming every single day to care for them. We surveyed our students, thousands of homes across the country. Less than 2% of our homes even got COVID. Because it was so much easier to control. We know who's coming and going. It's like it wasn't just all this chaos of everything going on. It was easy to quarantine, one person or whatever if something happened. But I also want to say this, locking people in their rooms and pushing food under the door to a senior who's already lonely, who's already dealing with health issues, that is wrong.
That's what they were doing?
Yes, in big box facilities. In our homes, we were like, everyone needs to get outside. We need to get sunshine. Your families want to visit, come visit, because you need that in life.
Of course,
you leave a baby untouched, it literally dies. Like we need human touch and interaction as human beings. That is the worst thing we could do for a human to upwards of a senior. They need sunlight, they need humans, they need healthy food, interaction. And we were able to continue to provide that and carry business on normally. And
Yeah.
so for us, we saw a massive spike in the amount of people wanting to come into our homes.
Yeah.
We saw a big, we had wait lists for the first time like ever, because people were so disappointed in what was happening in the big homes. They were taking their loved ones out and saying, I'm begging, can they come here? You know?
Yeah.
So not only is the massive need there, but the market is shifting. People are saying, no more is that acceptable. We have to do something better. And this truly is, in my opinion, one of the only answers. So
Yeah.
I'm excited about what's to come in the residential assisted living
Me
world
too.
in the future.
My God, I'm very excited about what's going to happen. So already, yeah, so I didn't even think about the silver tsunami and all of that. And we're already short of bed for the silver generation. So the silent generation, I mean. So wow, this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Very exciting. So okay, so that's very good. And in terms of, so what's the sweet spot here? Like in terms of, so I know that in here I can do like up to 12. I think you mentioned like up to 12 resident in the home, and I need about 300 to 500 square feet. So I kind of have some good parameter. I have to start finding daughters, where the 55-year-old daughters living,
Yeah.
draw a circle around it. So I know kind of like what to look at. So that's pretty good. But what's the sweet spot in terms of the business, and in terms of, I don't want to be cold, but so that maximize my return? And the end, it comes down to my return. So what's the sweet spot there?
Yeah. So whatever the national, or we know the national average is 4,500. So your area, and anyone listening, you can find the average in your area by, can I say a website name? It's not
Yes,
mine.
yeah,
It's okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
Genworth.com. So GEN worth.com / cost of care.
Okay.
When you go to that website, you can type in your area code or wherever you want to invest, and it's going to show you the average in your area of assisted living.
Okay.
So 4,500 is the national average, but in Salinas, California, 7,100 is the average, right? So it totally ranges depending on where you are.
Wow.
So once you know,
Salinas, California, the real estate there is super cheap.
Cheap. I know. I don't know why. But that's what I'm saying, is you have to determine what it is, and then you can even find out by just doing quick research on the homes, but that site is gathering all the big and small homes, putting them together and say, this is the average of the area.
Yeah. Okay.
So whatever the average is, if you're going to charge below average in your homes, you're going to get below average people, right? That number isn't pulled from air. It's based on what everyone's charging. So our sweet spot, what we like to encourage our students to do, is between that number and above, right? The level 3, level 4, not the tippy top. So think of like a triangle. If we'll go with national average to make it easy. If $4,500 is our break even, a level 1, 2 is below average. So anything where you're charging less than 4,500, the sweet spot would probably be between 4,500 and I would say 8,000 a month. So anywhere there is your sweet spot. When you're going to charge above 8,000, maybe 8 to 10,000, now you're getting into level 5, like the tippy top, because there's only so many people who can afford that.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
I have students who they charge that and they're doing great, but they are located in like the uber luxury areas, you know. So it's happening. It's just the location is going to be extra key for a level 5. A level 3, 4 is your sweet spot. So between that 4,500 to 8,000 or whatever that translates to in your area is going to be good. So especially depending on what you're going to be offering. If all the other homes don't have a chef, but you do, okay, that's an extra 500 or 1,000 per resident per month, you know. And like we were saying, if it's private bedrooms, private bathrooms versus shared, so we got to find out what's happening in the area. Is everyone offering shared bedrooms and you're going to be the only privates? You can charge more. Okay. So there's a lot of different amenities and features that kind of can make that price go up. And I know you were saying like the residents, what's your break-even point?
Yeah. How many residents should I go for? Should I go for like 12? It's always the maximum is always better, or is this something less?
I do advise always going for the maximum, because for you as the owner, it's the same amount of work to have 4 residents than have 16. It's for you, it's just a real estate and a business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the caregivers and the manager who it's different for them based on the amount of residents, but not for you. So if you're going to do it, you might as well do it. I would say whatever the maximum is, go for it. Every state ranges between 6 and 16. And then, like we were saying, your county may vary somewhere in between. They might say, Florida might say 12, but Miami might say 8, right? So, okay, that's fine. We'll do 8. Or C, do other homes have more? And what did they do to get more? Because it might just be applying for a variance. And just getting that approved through the state because you do have the square footage or the sprinklers or whatever that little thing is that they wanted or needed. So finding out that number in your area, it should be always on like your state DHS website, but some of the states make it so hard to dig around and find. So that is something we provide to our students in our training, just all the state by state information, because it can be challenging. But the break even point, honestly, I would say don't go no state allows less than 5. I mean, unless you're going unlicensed, but I would say 5 residents is kind of your break even point financially. Once you're above 5, it's better. So in areas where you're allowed to have 6 residents, that's where it's tricky because you're not going to be 100% full at all times. You have to bake in for some vacancy. So that's where
what's the typical vacancy that we can expect in assisted living?
In the beginning, I would say like you want to plan to ramp up like 2 the first month, maybe 4 over the next month, maybe 6, and then 8, and then 10. Like you don't want to do a business plan where you're like, woo, we're going to be full right away. No one's going to want to invest with you. It's not true. It's just not going to happen. You want to do bunny hills. But I would say what's really interesting is certain times of year, you will have wait lists. Other times of year, you'll have 3 empty beds. It just flows the way it does. You can't control it when, especially after the holidays, you will see some residents pass on. And I think it's because mentally it's kind of like let's get through the holidays. Let's be there for people. And then once they get that release, it's like, okay, I can go, so you'll usually see a dip after the holidays, but you'll see an increase before or during the holidays because people go visit their loved ones and see moldy food, medication not taken, stuff happening in the house. And they say, Mom, you need assisted living. What are you doing? And so you see a spike and then you see a decrease. And so it's really interesting to kind of watch that. The key is you have to always be marketing, even when you're full. There's an entire industry of people called placement agents who basically talk to the daughter Judy's and say, what's your budget? What's the location? What is your need? And then they pass out business cards and send people to your home and you pay them if they're a lead for you, if they're a referral from that person. I love working with placement agents because I'll pay for the lead, especially on average, someone lives in assisted living for 3.5 years. So paying 1 month's rent, I'll do that. I don't care, no problem. But I will say, once you do that, okay, now the placement agents, it's kind of like God. You don't want to pray just when you're in need, right? You want to pray all the time. You want to say, thank you, God, for my blessings when things are good. And thank you, God, for my blessings when things are bad, right? That's like a placement agent. You don't just want to call them and say, oh my God, I have 3 vacant beds. Help me, help me, help me. You want to call them even when you're full and say, hey, thanks so much for placing Grandma Joe in the home. She's doing incredible. We're full right now, but I just wanted to check in on you. How are you doing? And build that relationship so that when another person comes, they're like, hey, I'm happy to send them over here. My other people had great experience, whatever the case is.
Would it make sense to call them even when you're just getting started like me and then say, okay, well, where do you need beds? And then,
Yes, right on the money. That's exactly what we did for our second home. We called all the placement agents and said, where is the number 1 place where people are pointing to the map and saying, I want a home there? And they literally showed us the spot. We got a home there. That home is full almost all the time. It's like a bed opens, it gets.
Oh, wow.
So 100%, that is a great person to talk to. It's about relationships. You've got to build those relationships and also incorporating them in that, saying, where should you put it? Once you buy the home, they're saying, do you want to come over and see the home I'm doing?
Oh, yeah.
like they'll feel a part of it. So when you have the open house, they're like, this is my house too, Now they want to send more people to you, whatever the case is.
Yeah, and if they've seen it, they know kind of like, so that gives them a better feel than, oh yes, I'll send you some pictures or something like that.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. What is the average length of stay per resident?
3.5 years is the average amount. Yeah.
Okay.
So pretty decent. I will say this, the more they pay, the longer they stay.
Oh yeah.
What I mean is when someone is tight on money, they wait until the absolute last second to move their loved one in.
Oh, okay.
And so typically they pass much sooner because, they're close to the end anyways. But when you're paying, if the average in your area is $4,500, but you're paying $8,000 for your loved one, money isn't an issue for you. And you probably move them in way sooner because you just saw one or two things that made you go, oh, you can't live alone. Like, let's get you in there. And now you're staying way longer. So it's strange because people don't realize that, but it's very true. There's much higher turnover in the government funded homes or the homes that charge below average rates.
Okay, sounds good. So, Isabelle, this is a fantastic discussion. So thank you. Obviously, you were a fountain of knowledge, and so that was very good. And so, tell us about kind of how people can reach out to you and talk about your academy. You mentioned that you have students that are that you're helping and stuff like that. So, tell us more about all of that and how people can get a hold of you.
Yeah. So we, at the Residential Assisted Living Academy, we have trainings every like 6 to 8 weeks. They're in Phoenix, Arizona. And they're really great. It's the educational, steps to get you started, no matter how you want to get involved passively or actively. We're kind of going through all those key components so that you can decide what's right for you and make those moves from there. But I definitely want to give all of your listeners a chance to learn more or grab the free book we talked about in the beginning. So RAL101.com. There's free book, free webinar, free phone call. So if you want to talk to me or anyone on our team, go to RAL101.com. And for those of you who want to come to the class, I'd love to see you there. You can find out more information there as well. So thanks so much for having me. This is a lot of fun. You had great questions, actually.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. So saying thank you, Isabelle. So obviously a lot of these, what the links that you mentioned, I'm going to put in the show notes so that people can go and refer to them. And thank you for sharing all that information. That was very interesting. And I think I want to get off this this podcast so I can call a placement agent and find out where I can buy a house in Miami.
I love it.
So thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to Break Away from the Rat Race with your host, Eric Martel. If you want to share your story and experience with our listeners, please message us on Facebook at Break Away from the Rat Race. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and our podcast on iTunes.